Do we pick the family storyline that we're born in? Do we choose families before we get here? That we want to be born into? Almost. So we really do.
Almost means we don't say, I want to be with that family before birth. Before death, the last thoughts are pulled by some attachments. The last thoughts before we die, they pull us in different attachments. And that's the choice we make of the next family we are born in.
Wow.
So I said almost. It's not a deliberate choice of a family. It's a choice arising out of our attachments at the time of death. Actually, during life, we have many attachments. We move from one to the other. We forget one, come to another. One is replaced by another. But the ones that which are most prominent at the time of death, is a choice for the family in which we are born.
Really? Can we control that? Oh, yeah, like with instant death? Let's say for instant death, if you hit by a car or something, you're just gone. Maybe you weren't thinking about anything yet.
You are.
You really are, you just don't know it.
You know it too.
You know it?
Others don't know. They're gone. They're unconscious. When you are sleeping, people
what if I
think you
was
are
thinking
unconscious.
about shaky pizza just before it happened?
Well, who wants shaky pizza? Let's find out. Go on in that family.
So we got to be careful what we see just as we're going. We gotta really be...
When we die, what people are seeing is the death of the body. But if you have heard of near-death experiences, of which you have heard many, Clarence has taped from that. Near-death experiences, people tell something quite different. People are saying this person is dying, and that person is watching from top and looking at one's own body and wondering what these people are doing. So this means that this sort of life continues. It doesn't continue much later. When you are reborn, it continues from the time of death. In fact, it continues separately from the body, even just before death. Therefore, the thinking process doesn't stop. Just because you're dying, the thinking doesn't stop. It stops physically. It stops in the brain and starts shifting to the mind. The mind, as distinct from the brain, picks up the vibration and becomes alive on its own. Right now, the mind, the soul, mind, astral form, all are locked in like this with the body. You cannot separate them. In meditation, we try. As a good exercise, if one can succeed in meditation to look at one's body, look at one's mind, look at one's soul separately, it's a great experience. But if we cannot do that, then we think the body, the mind and soul are all one. We're all here together now. And when we're dying, everything is dying. So we're becoming conscious or unconscious, everything becomes conscious and unconscious together. We do not realize that the mind and soul or consciousness is so deeply embedded in the physical body, in the physical brain, that we are working in almost a synchronized way. The brain cells are operating in the same way that the mind cells are. The mind doesn't have the physical cells. So the mind is carrying memories and so on. When we die, the mind begins to separate from the body, from the physical brain. And therefore, memories which are difficult to get in the brain start coming back very easily in the mind. You review your whole life very easily. You look back on your whole life very quickly, very fast. It goes like a big, fast-moving screen before you. You remember all the things that happened. Wow, I did this, I forgot to do this, all this happened so fast. So it is not that you suddenly at the last minute think of Cheki's pizza and that's it. The whole life is floating in front of you. And some things stand out prominently. But because you have yourself given more prominence to the last attachments, they come out more prominently at the end. Even in the life flash that takes place at the time of death, the last few attachments come out more prominently and they govern your next life.
Even for Sakani?
For anyone. That's a normal method of fixing the problem, the destiny. Because we're talking of destiny for rebirth. Now I want to tell you that when does death start? Here people are fighting Pennsylvania or when birth starts. Whether it is at the time of conception or at the time of quickening or at the time of actual birth, separation of the body from the mother. Which is the time of birth? Is it conception, quickening, or actual birth?
It could be a moment just before the birth, I understand.
Is it just a moment before birth? Now, so that's a big question. I'll address it in a minute. But I'll address the other question first. When does death begin?
Death begins the moment we're born.
Death begins the moment we are born. Very true. The moment we are born, we are passing time towards death. Therefore, whatever we are doing is a preparation for death, not for life. If you do meditation and get away from the functions of the body and start seeing things which are going to outlive the body, you're preparing for life. Otherwise, you're always preparing for death. That is true. The Bible says so. The Bible says so. All scriptures say so. But looks deep when it hits us. That we are from birth preparing for death unless we are functioning at a level other than the physical. Then we are preparing for life. But that means we are dying slowly. We are dying slowly. When does the phase quicken? When the quickening process takes place towards death, it's very shortly before we actually die. Now we don't know. We say, oh, it was accidental death. There is no accidental death. That's all programmed. Looks accidental to the spectators and to us.
So somewhere it's known before the death?
Absolutely. Julian Johnson knew he will die by an accident. Not only accident, violent accident, by a man pushing him in argument. And they throw him down, his head will hit at that point in the spot. He showed all that to Mr. R.P. Mehta. He showed this is the spot where I will die. And he was dancing and happy about it. He was not feeling bad. Look, oh, death is already, my death is written out in such a form. This is the excuse I have to have death. He didn't say so. He was happy. Jesus has decided it's time for me to go. He said, I'm telling you, it's time to go. Actually, it's time to come. Come home. So he took it differently. But if you go within to the causal stage, not astral stage, you go within to the causal stage of Trikuti, pure mental stage, not the astral stage, not where the physical body is still there in some form. If you go there and look at your own future, you can see your death with your own eyes as precisely as it will happen, even if it is an accident. So it's all programmed. But the question I was asking is, if it is all programmed and you're going to die, what is the stage when death is quickened and the last attachments begin to develop? As it is about 9 months before death.
What do you mean by quickened?
Say it again. There's no difference.
It's like birds.
There's no difference.
9 months
Death
like
is
birds.
birth. Death is like birth. And when does it really hit you and your destiny gets solidified? About five months.
Wow, at 5 months, the
Before death.
fallout is still solidified.
Why? Because 9 months before death, your destiny and the attachments at that time have already developed the blueprint of your next birth. At 5 minutes, 5 months before death, you really absolutely written off exactly where you'll be born.
Is there a feeling that one gets?
Like unconscious or the total
If you do meditation, you can know it very clearly.
But does one get a feeling subconsciously or intuitively that something is taking place at that 5th month?
I'll tell you what people talk at that time in the 5th month before death. Now mark out, you watch out. I don't know, I want to sell away everything and go. I don't know, this will be the last time I'm going to see you. I don't know how long this is going to last. Mark those words of people and see when actual death takes place after these intimations start coming. Okay, then the death takes place. So when I said the last thoughts, the last attachments before dying are determining your future, actually it has taken 9 months to get those last thoughts. It is not so sudden.
Wait a minute, I missed that. What did you say?
The question was an earlier question, I have just amplified upon that. That the last thoughts before death determine where your attachments are going to pull you into the next life. So actually those last attachments start building up over a year or so. And in the last 5 months, you have no choice. You've been thinking of that all the time. Because preparation is being made of your new body already there, most likely.
So it's quick. It's not in between.
If there is no other form of life which we have to go through, like heaven, hell, intermediary stages, or any other form of life, plants and insect animals, supposing you are going to move from human to human life alone, your new body is already in the preparation before you die.
If you're going to human body.
If you're going from one human body to another, your new body is already in the preparation. And that body is taking its form based upon your destiny.
Based upon your what?
On your destiny. When you die in one body, the quickening and life comes in the other body.
You mean like right at that moment?
At that moment. Therefore, remember that what is the time of birth? What is the time? When does life come into a fetus? Is it at the conception? Is it at quickening? Is it at birth? The answer is all three are correct. Because you cannot have conception unless it is known which soul you are preparing the body for. To that extent, life starts at conception. But there is no living being in the fetus. It is part of the mother. If you cut the fetus, like they say, it's cutting the arm of the mother. It's part of the body of the mother. It is a living part, but as alive as any other part of the body of the mother. At the quickening, there is no other body in which that soul is living. It's living in that body, inside the mother, and becomes a separate entity. Here, somewhere in the 5th month. In the 5th month of pregnancy, when the quickening starts and the mother can feel that my unborn baby is now kicking inside me, that's the time when there is no other person, that soul is not living in any other body. Before that, the very person that the mother is carrying in conception is walking about somewhere else. How could you say there are two persons? But after the 5th month, actually that is a separate living person. And at birth, the destiny or pralabdha starts. It doesn't start earlier. So all three are correct answers. When does a human life start for the purpose of destiny? At the time of actual birth and separation from the mother. When does life start independently from any other being? At the point of quickening. When does life start for the point of view of determining the destiny? At conception. All three correct answers. But once you know what the truth is, then you'll have no problem. You know exactly the process. But how many people know about this process? Very few. They haven't even examined it.
Well, you know, they say because the baby or the fetus
soul is not pure soul. Soul, mind, astral body combined. Let's take this as a package and we are calling it soul for short. And the soul is inside. The soul is first outside. Does not experience the inside of the mother till the quickening. The soul, whatever form it has, supposing it is not a human form earlier, and is going to be born as a human being for the first time. It is in some other form. Say it is in the form of an angel, up in the heaven. Then it is having a different experience. Supposing it is a plant, it's still a plant, a tree. Supposing it is an animal, it's an animal. Whatever form the soul has, the soul still has that form, is still experiencing that form, and the body is being prepared by its destiny. When the soul moves into the new body, it's at the time of quickening. At that time, it's dark. Eyes are closed. Because it cannot see inside. And gradually, it has to adjust. Tree finds it very strange that it couldn't move its trunk, now it can move. A person, adult person who died, finds constricted. Could walk so easily, now cannot walk. So there's a very big adjustment taking place immediately after quickening. Very big adjustment for the soul, which is a conscious being. The soul has consciousness at that time. The conscious being, it's uncomfortable to say the least. It can be painful too, depending on what the mother is doing. Some mothers make their fetuses very painful and uncomfortable. Drugs and so on. It's terrible for the unborn baby. They don't realize. The mothers don't realize that they can do things that can damage and harm the unborn baby. The unborn baby has had a hard time adjusting and has to adjust very quickly. In a couple of months after quickening, it adjusts and says, oh, I have to put up with this. What can I do? God, get me out of this. The baby actually cries. God, get me out of this. It's a terrible state for me. Please get me out. I don't like it. Because all babies at that time have not closed their earlier mental memory to the new memory being built into the cells of the brain. Now this is being embedded into the cells of the brain which are formed first. The cells of the brain which carry memory are ready at the time of quickening. The entire brain is ready. The memory cells are particularly well developed. So when it tries to enmesh itself, it has to come into the body. It enmeshes its memory into the brain cells of the fetus. But the soul is constantly still thinking of remembers past life, remembers more than one past life, because it has detached itself from the dense brain cells of the previous form. So it can remember not only one life, several lives. It says, wow, what did I do? If I am born again, I'll never do those things again. Never again. That was horrible what I did. Once I get a chance, God, give me one more chance. Once I see the light of this world, no more of that light. All this struggle goes on right till the 9th month. So 9 months, 10 days, 9 days, whatever is the period actually destined for that soul is born. Born means birth takes place, separate from the mother. The mental self, that part of the mind which is not enmeshed into the brain, and because of your ability to be separate in this environment, you pull the whole brain into those cells, and your cells become physical. So your memory cells, which you are embedded in the mind, which you are carried with you, whether you are in the body or not, then gets embedded into the physical being, and the little child very quickly starts forgetting all that it was remembering before birth. Immediately after birth, you look at the baby is looking at you and still remembering. But gradually the fade out is taking place in a few months. Before the baby can speak, it's forgotten. So the connection is lost between the two lives. If this loss, this fading out, had been extended, say, by the natural course to say 1 or 2 years, they would all have said, I remember this. Very few remember. Most of them forget by the time they can speak. And all they can say is to imitate, to say wah, 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 just trying to adjust their vocal cords and their mouth and their lips to the new environment and new little body in which they have been trapped. And as they make those strange sounds, the adults who are grown up, adults who have knowledge of these things, instead of telling them, look child, we know where you're coming from and we know that you're forgetting slowly, then the child says, wah, wah, they also say, wah, wah, wah. The child thinks that is an appropriate response. So he says, no, wah, wah. If he finds that crying helps, he cries. If laughing helps, he laughs. So the simple expressions in a child, which do not carry much weight otherwise in an adult, those become the life of the child. And we say, oh, there's a baby, just so. And we start giving the beginning of life and even the beginning of consciousness to the little baby that just born. Because this is the birth of the baby. That is why people who have seen this miracle of birth and say the miracle starts at that point have a hard time understanding the transmigration of soul, reincarnation. They have a very hard time. They think this is it. It starts from here, it ends at death. We have no notion, we have no idea. Unless some of these babies when growing or later on start speaking up and remembering old things, then they mess up the scientists. Then they say there must be something wrong. Maybe somebody tutored them. Maybe some molecules of another body came in, carrying, maybe part of a cult.
If a person dying is really attached to master, and they're going to be born in a different part of the world.
The real attachment?
Yeah.
Real attached to the master. You know what is real attached to the master?
No.
Means not attached to anyone else.
Uh-oh.
If you have a person who is really attached to the master, in the last year of before death, that person will not have a rebirth. Not have a rebirth in physical form. That's why I said, really attached. Such a person cannot. Master will see that person is taken up and stage by stage taken to Satsang. This is what we are trying for. All this meditation we are trying is to reach that state. All the meditation we are doing is to reach a state when we have no other attachment except the mind.
What showed me that God has every being in the universe, in the creation, automatically worshiping Him. That is from the lowest worm to the highest being. That is beyond the mind. Now, I can remember sitting in meditation, and what came to mind was what you said to me about people worshiping God. And as I was sitting, I could hear the birds outside the window, and every chirp was exactly the same as if the birds were doing similar.
Except the birds in that one. About those birds you ask, you will feel tell you.
I don't know. But is it true? I mean, I could hear the birds. Yeah, but everything.
Every cell in our body is doing similar. And we used to say that and hear from great master and tell other people, every cell resonates. Sometimes we would hear. In meditation, when we were not experts, not good practitioners, just beginners, novices in meditation, do meditation, it takes a long time, looks like we could hear the heartbeat. Well, we can hear the heartbeat because it's so quiet. Then we could hear our breathing. Okay, actually breathing. Normally in conversation with each other, we don't hear our breathing. And we don't hear our heartbeat unless it's palpitating. But there, even in normal heartbeat, because it's so quiet, you start hearing things which you normally don't hear. You can hear shan of the bloodstream. You ultimately start hearing the cells. Take up your fingertips for a person who meditates 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. I'm not talking about 2.5 hours. You meditate 12 hours a day, you look at your fingertips, you can hear the fingertips.
Why is that?
Every cell will be having a sound, doing similar. Now, for the first time in the last 3 months, they have recorded the sound of the cell. Did you know that? The sound of the cell. That each cell, in its movement, in the DNA movement in the nucleus of the cell, is making a sound, and it can be recorded. The new amplification system, which they never could do. And you were talking to children about this. Now you have a scientific evidence for this. It just came in the news. It'll come a lot more now, you'll hear it.
I would suggest that any of us would like to see Puri. I thought of your whole movie. It brought tears to my eyes. But the movie shows exactly how the Western mind operates in comparison to the mind of Puri, where they just accept what is. Whether they're in self-centeredness, self-mission, some of the, I guess, of the world is what they call it. And yet, I've heard critics talk about packet crazy and how can it be a city of joy? But some of these so-called self-proclaimed critics have no idea that joy is within us. Packet crazy has absolutely he's portrayed that thing so beautiful.
He's having a hard time explaining it. He himself is having a hard time explaining it.
Exactly.
You see that? If he is having a hard time explaining it, those who are listening to him have a still harder time understanding it. How can poverty, pain, suffering, fighting, violence, pain, in a place we call the city of joy?
I can understand that. This is crazy. I've heard about 5 or 6 people saw the movie. If there was anything that blew my mind, that was it. It just shows how, like you say, like the mind analyzes and the soul synthesizes. So we have to take everything apart in the Western culture and put it together again. That's crazy. Wow.
When he went with that idea, when he went to India, he went with these ideas.
Yeah.
That he said he could help them because he comes from an affluent place. He has found a lot of difficulty. He finds peace of mind. He goes and finds the same kind of mind there, same kind of violence. But then he finds a spiritual peace and joy. He found it not dependent upon this outside pain.
Well, I want to ask you 3 questions about what we were talking about while Chalet is picking up. Okay, Puri saw sometimes you see children that are born, when they come here and they seem to have more wisdom even than their parents. You know, sometimes they even put in positions where they have to take care of their parents, and they see more of the parent than the parent themselves. Is that because sometimes a daughter could be born, but she could actually be the mother? Or a son could be...
Very often. They all recirculate. That's why, you remember, I have made the mistake, I was slip of telling some people who they were in the past.
Yeah.
Whereas I shared with him, so and so and so and so. We looked at them, we can, by their present activities, realize that they're still living their own lives. Right. Number of them. Now, I can talk of those who are not here. My grandmother died. And she was at the time of death living in the house of my second uncle, the one below, the younger brother of my father. He was married to the fat aunt. So grandmother was living with them. She was very attached to them. She was born as her own grandchild. When she was born, she was suffering from a particular disease, some kind of a skin disease on her foot. She died. The grandchild was born with the same disease, the same spot on the foot. We knew that she was likely to come there, but that was almost a sign. That was her. The son, uncle, he died. And he died, and he came back as his own grandson again. And he came and he spoke like him, and he carried on some conversation, at least with me, which his grandfather could not complete, who had started that conversation. Everything is right. All moving around mostly in the same associate, same family, again and again. My great grandmother died, and is my sister now, younger sister. Younger. She's Dedeji, grandmother's mother. No, grandfather's mother. And then, of course, Rama, you know, one of my sisters was not from the same family. She had been to another family of a bookseller. She's a bookseller's daughter. She died there, came and was born in our house. And then she could not speak. She got that Puri, that convulsion. It was called Saint Vitu's dance. The disease itself was called Saint Vitu's dance. And then she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't laugh, and she almost died at the age of 1.5, I think. Less than 2 years old, she was dying. She wouldn't eat, doctors gave up. So my father took her to a great master. Because we believed that if a person can see the great master, they're bound to be saved. That means that the darshan should be done, then she's fine. So I took the little baby great master and said she's dying. So we wanted to get your blessing. So we laughed loudly. He said, she can't die unless her destiny is fulfilled. He said, her destiny is fulfilled, doctors have told her. He said, doctors know nothing about destiny. They only know about medicine. In that moment she survived. Then she recovered. She recovered from illness without any further treatment. And as she began to learn the words, which other babies learn from birth, she began to learn from that stage onwards. So it took her, she was retarded that way by a year. So when she was about 2.5, she began to speak some words. By 3, she was taking names, family members. She was not taking the name of anybody. I was a brother. She was not taking names of anyone in the family. She's talking of Om Prakash, Om, where is Om? There is no Om in our house. And where is Kanta and Shanta? Where have they gone? Nobody in our relatives are named like this. So we gradually began to discover she's talking of another life. But there was no way to find out what she's talking of, where the life is. Still, an aunt of mine came to the house, and my mother's older sister, she came to our house and she got sick. She fell in the house. We called a doctor. A family doctor. Family doctor came. And my aunt said, when he was giving her treatment and giving injection to her, she said, do you know, doctor, something very strange is happening to that girl? Do you see a little girl? She's talking of a life that is somewhere else. The doctor said, children often do that because they have a maid servant and she teaches these children names of her own family. His aunt said, but this family has a Muslim maid. And she can't be teaching Hindu names. The names he was taking were Hindu family, not Muslim names. So the doctor said, well, who knows? She might have heard from other children outside. What does she say? The doctor just casually asked. He was a doctor, so he didn't believe in these things. The aunt said, don't you think she could be talking of a past life? No, don't. These two, there is no such thing as past life. These are made up things. The doctor is telling her. And then he says, what does she speak of? My aunt said, she's talking of Om Prakash and Kanta and Shanta. What? What names did you say? Om Prakash, Kanta. Are you sure? Why are you surprised, doctor? You don't believe in this, and why are you surprised? Just because these are the names of my neighbor's children. Wow. No, what a coincidence. There was no way to find out. Where is your neighbor? In the city. In the main bookstore. True, are you sure? I'm sure. I'm their doctor. I treat all these children with these names. And she could not have any contact with those people. They're living so far away. You are living in the suburbs. They're living in downtown city. But the doctor got a face. He said, when was she born? Took the exact date of birth and went back and asked, did somebody die in your family in that? Yeah, one of the daughters died. Then, in August 6th, was it 5th or 6th of August? When was this girl born? Same year, 30th of December. It clicked in him, but he then said, no, I can't believe it. Because if she was alive as a daughter somewhere else, she couldn't be pregnant at that time. This is the same mistake that we were talking of earlier. And how can a person has to die before being conceived as a fetus? That was a common impression people had, that life starts at conception, so somebody must be dead if there's reincarnation of the same soul. This came very strangely to the doctor, that here is a person in the same family whose names this girl remembers, died in August and is born in December, and fits in with the name that he is taking here. Then things went in further, and he began to investigate. Who was that girl? Where did she speak? So he checked up there which school that girl went to, because she was a teenager. That girl was a teenager when she died. And this girl is very small, so he's seeing the history of that girl who died. How did she die? She died out of some sickness or something. They were not sure. He said, I myself remember that I am the doctor, and they wouldn't say how she died. He was very surprised. I don't remember how she died. And then this girl here is talking of the same school, because he came back to ask, did you go to school? Yeah. Which school? Same school. He went back to the school to see if the names were written in the register. And that girl who died, her name was there. And so the things started matching up. We got very curious. The doctor said there is a family living, and that matches the description the woman is given, that the child is given. So we asked the child, do you remember the house? Oh yeah, I know my house. She wouldn't treat us like brother. She would tell me, if you don't talk to me nicely. No, by that time she's growing up. She's growing up, She's talking to her older brother. If you don't talk to me nicely, I'll go back home. I said, aren't you home? No, I'll go back to my own home. She would talk like this. I'll go back and tell my other brother, real brother, Om Prakash, and he'll stamp you. I said, we should go and see. We decided that we must visit that bookseller. But then she said, I'll go to my home and I show you. Because it has 3 sides. My house has 3 sides. And there's a well. You don't have a well. How can you say this is my house and I don't have my well? My own well for my water. And my house has 3 sides, yours doesn't have. So she criticized us for an inadequate house. But the doctor was in between who took us. So we went one day. Drove in a car. My father had an old car, a Morris. And I sat in the window and said, Rama, that's her name. Rama, here's your old house. Of course, that is not my house. My house has 3 sides. He said, we can't understand how a house can have 3 sides. We don't understand. We used to tease her. That's your house, that's your house. She wouldn't accept that. When we went to the shop, the doctor took us to the store, the bookstore. And it was called the Sial bookstore or something. I don't remember the exact name. There was a bookshop and there was a big sign. And we said, do you remember? That's my home. First time she said. And we said she's making a mistake because that's the shop, that's the store, is not a home. She said, no, that's the store, there's the home, that is my home. She's been so accurate so far that the last moment she's letting us down to establish the theory of reincarnation. And we went down and we found that the access to the home is through the store. And that was the way to the home. And she could remember that. So we went inside on the back of the house of the well. Back of the store was the well, and the house was in three sides. When we got down into the store, she ran to the back as if she knew the way. She ran to the back and dragged us. Come, I show you our home. We couldn't understand because we didn't suspect that the house is behind the store. So she ran behind, showed us the well, showed us this is the house. And that man, whose daughter she was in the previous life, Tulsidas, that was his name. The owner of the store, he was wondering what we are doing. So he said, what's happening? He said, strange thing is happening. This girl born in our house says that she has brother and sister called Om Prakash, Kanta, Shanta. You have these children? Yeah, we have. She remembers everything. And here she's telling us the house, all the inside of your house. He says, no, this could be a prank you're playing on me. He said, we are playing a trick on him. He said, yes, we don't believe it ourselves. I said so. Being studying for, science and getting into scientific mode, he said, don't worry, I don't believe either. But she keeps on repeating these names. The doctor has got us here. He said, all right, I will ask her a question. Let me take her aside, I'll ask her a question. So we took her on one side. And we talked. And we were talking. How can she know this is the well? We didn't pay attention to the fact that that man had taken her aside. And they came back and he was crying. He took out some money and gave her. He said, you are my daughter. I want to give you the money. She took the money. And I said, see, he must have had some. Then by that time I was philosophic. He must have some old karma. He couldn't pay her off. Here she has come back to recover it. He gave the money and he felt happy. And we went back. When we were going back, we asked her, what did he ask you? And she said, when he asked me, do you remember the well? He said, yes, you pushed me into it. How can I forget? Boy, that was force. Hey, we went back to him. You know what he said? What did you ask him? Ask her when you took her aside. And he said, I asked her, can you point out to the wardrobe where your personal clothes were kept? And she pointed out to the correct wardrobe. She says, don't be a liar. You asked her about the well. The little one. He says, she's telling a lie. I never talked about the well. I never pushed her into the well. He said, the courts don't accept the testimony of witnesses who are reborn like this. So you don't be frightened. It's a very strange case of reincarnation. If it is true, accept it. Yeah, because she had gone out against his will. He eloped with another boy. Then he showed the picture of a boy. Later on when we came back, he never went back to confront him. So he was too embarrassed even with the first thing.
So he killed her?
Killed her. And she came back to tell him that I can still remember. Now that girl is still alive. She's still there.
Did you ever see that man again?
And stopped the telephone. I didn't know.
Yeah, don't you remember when we were in Delhi, they all...
Oh, yeah, they all said hello.
So does that explain why she had that...
Then she gave a lot of information about what happened to her. What kind of dark well she fell into. Then she remembered she was being lifted up from the well. Then she fell. It took a lot of long time. They say I can't remember the rest of it. But I do know that I came in the house, but I don't remember much. But up to that date, when we visited the Tulsidas' store, Up to that date, every day she was telling something new about past life. After that, she did not tell us a single thing. She kept on repeating the things she had already told us.
Why?
I don't know why. Maybe that was the end of the long karma with that man.
Memory.
That ended there. So the memory did not.
Death ended there.
Actually, that was really the death of the previous karma.
How old was you when you had all these memories?
For 4 years, between 3 and 4 years.
Wow.